Scientists for the longest time thought that our ability to generate more connectivity or cells in our brain was limited to what we developed at growth. And there was a notion that by the time we were teenagers, we had maximized the amount of brain cells that we can grow. And so it was a finite amount. What's discovered in 1998 was this marquee study done by a scientist by the name of Peter Eriksson. And he did something very remarkable. He received consent from terminal cancer patients so that he could study their brain in a very ethical, humane manner after they passed. And indeed, what Eriksson and his team found out was that you can actually generate more cells in the brain after you pass your teenager part of life. So that was a really remarkable discovery that they had made. What Eriksson and his team discovered was that new neurons were born, new cells, in the hippocampus, which is a place that is important for our memory, our cognition. And not long after that study, about a year later, another group of scientists began to study the brain of rodents, rats, as they were running on a wheel, the classic mice on a real wheel study. And they soon discovered that the exercise that the mice were performing dramatically increased the new neurons that were being produced in the mice. When mice run, they produce more cells, new neurons. Thus, we're making the assumption that maybe this is also true for humans. At least for me, at the age of 50, that whenever I exercise and I work after I exercise, I feel that I have better memory compared to, say, when I was maybe in my mid-30s. I don't think I'm any less sharp, and I attribute that to my 15 years of consistent exercise. The podcast today cites these two studies to give you some precedence on what we're going to be talking about today. And it really highlights this book that I've reflected on for several months now, actually years. But I tend to have these 2 or 3 books that I really find deep knowledge from. And it sparks my interest back into constantly reminding people who are around me why exercise is so important for not just our health, not just our heart health, not just our cardiovascular health, but our mental health. And this book, Spark, which is a book I've read multiple times now, and I've highlighted different chapters that I thought was important. And the last time, when I just first started this podcast, I highlighted how BDNF improved and how that had, because of exercise, and how that had helped many women go through menopause, go through depression. Today's section, I really wanted to highlight how exercise is helping people, specifically a school in Naperville that adopts exercise in the morning and throughout the day to help children perform better, not only in school, but also in life. And it's special because it actually works, and it worked so well that this specific school tests better than most of the schools in the United States. And the protocol that they instituted into the school was they weren't after sports. They didn't talk about exercise as sports, but they highlighted it as fitness. So they wanted to improve the fitness, naturally the health of their students, without explaining to the student that, oh, if you shoot a three-pointer and you make the three-pointer, you're a better human. It wasn't benchmarked around that. It was benchmarked against how much activity you could actually do. And so let's say, and this is remarkable, let's say you didn't test well on an exam. You can make up for that grade if you improved your activity. In other words, you could go run a few laps or do a few push-ups. These were very humane ways they approached this. So don't get the sense like there's a drill sergeant there. No, it's not like that at all. And what they quickly realized was that this implementation of exercise for fitness, not as a skill, meaning we're not trying to compare if you're better than another person, had profound effects on the development of confidence for the student, as well as how they perform in social aspects of their life. But most importantly, they tested extremely well in their exams on a national basis. What they really did was in Naperville Central High School, District 203, they began offering a special early morning 0-hour PE class before the official school day. In this program, students engaged in aerobic exercise, running, biking, heart monitor, track workouts for about 15 to 40 minutes. And they targeted heart rates between 160 and 180 BPM, which is pretty high. It's pretty normal for a younger kid. And what they really discovered from this test, and I had to write this down because there's a lot of information. Students who exercise immediately before literacy or math classes perform significantly better. 33% greater gain in standardized test reading scores compares to peers with later PE classes. So think about that. Doing exercise earlier had a profound impact on how they tested. Algebra tests increased by 20.4% in the PE, then literacy group versus just 3.9% in the control group. Students performed better when the academic class followed PE closely. Spacing scheduling reduced the benefit. So what John Ratey's explanation for this was, exercise is a miracle grow for the brain. And he cites its role in increasing neurotransmitters, BDNF, and synaptic plasticity, and exercise stimulating neurotransmitters, these growth factors, allowed the environment of the brain to be more ripe for learning. So you improved your attention, processing speed, memory, executive function, mood regulation, and stress resilience. But here's the application in real life of how this works. In a school, in the United States, in Naperville, these double digits growth, whether it's 33% in reading gain, 20% in math, they're material. So actually don't take this with a grain of salt. Try to implement exercise before your kids start to learn, and sprinkle exercise out throughout the day, especially in summertime where we're in that, and have them exercise, break, and use that stimulus to absorb new information that can fuel their growth as a young adult or a young child, and then create habits for them so that they can utilize this tool that you've shared with them as they age well into their 20s, 30s, 40s, and say, oh, I'm stressed, or, oh my goodness, I need to learn something. I have a presentation. Okay, I'm going to go do some exercise. I'm going to get on the treadmill, or I'm going to go walk the block. I'm going to do a quick short jog. I'm going to create all the blood flow necessary in my brain, create that, reshape my environment, prime that environment in my brain for learning and to remember things so that I can become more functional. And I can tell you, I personally, when I have big meetings, get up, 2 hours, 3 hours ahead of time, I do a run. And it's a minimum 1 hour run, but I will not go into a meeting without having done a run if it's really important. But I do exercise every morning by default. And I find myself just working so much better after I do my bout of exercise, whether it's 30 minutes, 45, 60 minutes. That bout of exercise creates this environment in my head that allows me to think better, just gives me my prefrontal cortex a bit more juice. It's definitely something I practice, and I hope for those of you who are not doing it yet, try to do it. For those of you who are doing it, great, get your kids to do it and create healthy habits around this. So it's not, oh, I want you to run faster than your neighbor, or I want you to shoot more three throw. No, I just want you to do it for fitness and health, and have them recognize that that's why daddy and mommy wants you to do it. Have them pair that stimulus with, don't you feel better now after you did that? And they go, oh yeah, I do. And create these habits around movement that they can just translate into adult life. So when they go to college and there's overeating that takes place, or over drinking, whatever, I think kids now are drinking a lot less, so that's good. And they can say, oh, I can use this tool that my parents gave me in this toolkit to offset stress, offset depression, I'll just go running down and back from my hallway when no one's watching, or I can go for a quick jog. We give them more tools than just, hey, go read the book, or hey, yeah, it's 5 o'clock, you got to go play basketball. No, but providing them exercise tools, because we know from the science here and from Dr. John Ratey's work that when you give children a way to exercise that's in a non-competitive format, meaning they're doing it because they're either being rewarded for the exercise because they get a better grade, and or they just do it because they're able to do it without being judged, that has profound impact on the development of their brain, especially as they age. You're getting more neurons, more cells. So I'm going to take a leap of faith and say, maybe that's going to help with preventing you from developing certain diseases related to the brain as you age, or maybe it delays it from happening. It has to have some impact on our brain and our mental health if the science is suggesting that exercising should produce more neurons, more cells in your brain. Thus, it doesn't say you need to run a marathon to do that. It's just any type of movement that creates some stress, aerobic. And remember, there has to be a stressful component there. And we're not talking about running, marathons. It's just getting up, creating stress on the body so that you're moving throughout the day instead of just being sedentary, sitting here. Sedentary is not bad. Let me preface this. It's like sitting here, there's a time and place to sit. Sitting's comfortable. Sitting's a place where sitting is probably more comfortable for more people to work, which is fine. But just remember to move every hour and not have that imprint on your sofa that is very, very difficult to get rid of. I think that's really an important tip. I think it's fair to make 5 key assumptions after I've read this book, and I wrote it out and I'm just going to summarize it for you. And this is my interpretation, so take it with a grain of salt. Number 1, exercise may help reduce the risk of cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. Number 2, physical activity has been shown to improve memory, mood, brain function, and play a protective role in age-related conditions like dementia. Number 3, regular aerobic exercise, meaning fast walking, even jogging, can boost, or stairs, right? Climbing stairs can boost brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. This is something that I've been talking about, which supports neuron health, may help delay symptoms of Alzheimer's. And I know this is a topic a lot of us are concerned about, including myself. My father's 81 years old. He's been doing stairs daily, and I think that has had a profound impact on how his memory is so good. Yeah, I'm actually helping him right now, taking care of him in a different place. Another 4th assumption is there's no cure for Alzheimer's. Research does suggest that consistent exercise is one of the most powerful tools we have to support long-term brain health, as suggested by the studies. When you do things that are complicated, where you have to think through things, it could be a trail run where you have to navigate a lot of different rocks and surfaces. That stress promotes the brain to learn and gives you a sharper brain. And so I think the conclusion of all this is, this was first direct evidence that human brain is capable of this term called neurogenesis, which means it's capable of creating new cells and neurons. And the subsequent studies that follow aim to highlight these discoveries, right? And it's just, unfortunately, it's really hard to do this on humans. It's not ethical. But through Eriksson's study of patients that had passed, this indeed seems to just suggest that neurogenesis is most likely possible. And you tie this all back to present day society. And I know I just went through 4 major points. What is the takeaway from this podcast? Okay, we got it. Children's going to perform better because they exercise. They're going to do better in tests. But for people like us, right? Another place where it's super relevant is in our ability to take care of ourselves and our parents now. For most of us Xers, or late millennials, our parents are getting old. So the conclusion, I think it's safe to assume with some stretch of confidence that this is my interpretation again. People who exercise regularly tend to have a lower risk of Alzheimer's, and they tend to perform a little bit better as they age, right? So this is not a cure. You cannot prevent dementia with exercise, and running or anything aerobic is not going to stop you from getting it. There's positive effects that can help with these common diagnoses. So yeah, that's it. Go get the book. This is not affiliate marketing. Go listen. It's super good. I make no money doing this. But I feel good helping people, and I really feel great, generative at this stage of my life, sharing these discovery with peers and some of my friends who come onto the channel, a lot of peers. Yeah, hope you enjoyed this one. Thanks.